the heart of this nation, under skies so blue,
there's a spirit that's stirring, values strong and true.
from the mountains to the prairies, from the cities to the sea, we stand for liberty, for faith and family. We're diving deep into the heart of what we believe.
Have you ever really stopped to think about what it actually means for a city, the government, to run something like a grocery store?
It's quite a concept, isn't it?
Yeah, it raises so many questions like, what big problems is it trying to fix? What are the hopes pinned on it? And maybe even more importantly, what kind of unexpected issues might pop up? Okay, let's unpack this.
Do it.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into the fascinating and frankly pretty surprising closure of the Sunfresh Market over in Kansas City, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission here, as always, is to get past those quick headlines, to dig deeper and really pull out the key insights from the sources we've got. We want to understand why this big project didn't make it and what that tells us, not just for KC, but for other places facing similar stuff.
The sources we have offer really different viewpoints, which is interesting in itself.
Exactly. We've got one from a conservative news outlet, townhall.com, which definitely frames it politically, and another from the Daily Mail that gives us more of the nitty-gritty operational details and what the community was going through.
So a couple of different angles on the same event.
Right. It's a complex case, for sure. We need to look at all sides.
What's truly fascinating here, I think, if we step back a bit,
Mm-hmm.
is seeing how these really different takes all focus on this one event. A grocery store closing, okay, sounds like maybe just business, right?
Yeah, it happens all the time.
But when you start peeling back the layers, like our sources let us do, you find this whole mix of things.
Yeah.
Big urban planning ideas, what the community desperately needed, major public money decisions, and some really tough social problems that can just derail things.
Even well-intentioned things.
Exactly. So it's definitely not as simple, this happened because of X. And that complexity, that's why it's so important to dig into. We need to look at the initial dream, the money involved, and then walk through the tough realities that led to the end.
Using both those political takes and the on-the-ground stuff.
Precisely.
Okay, so let's start with that initial vision, because you really can't get how big a deal this closure was without understanding what the Sunfresh Market was supposed to be.
Right. Its purpose.
It wasn't just, popping up another grocery store. It was meant to be a real beacon of hope, a lifeline, actually, for a part of Kansas City that was really struggling.
The sources mentioned it was part of a bigger project, right? To revitalize the East Side.
Yeah, exactly. To bring life back into the city's embattled East Side, is how one source puts it. And the core reason for putting it there...
Let me guess. Food access.
Bubo.
Yeah.
Our sources are crystal clear. Before Sunfresh opened, this neighborhood flat out did not have a grocery store.
Which leads us right into that term, food desert.
Right. And for anyone listening who isn't quite sure what that means, basically, it's an area, usually urban, but sometimes rural, where people just have really limited access to affordable, healthy food.
So no easy way to get fresh fruits, vegetables, lean meats.
Exactly. Think about your own life, Imagine not having a convenient place nearby to buy that stuff. Maybe you have to rely on corner stores with mostly processed foods, or take a long bus ride, or spend gas money you don't really have just to get to a proper supermarket.
It's a huge burden, especially for lower income families or people without cars.
Totally. It impacts health, budgets, everything. So this Sunfresh Market, it was designed first and foremost to plug that exact gap, to give thousands of people back that basic access to healthy food.
A fundamental need.
Absolutely. And crucially, this wasn't some small side project funded by, a local philanthropist. This was a major public undertaking.
Big money involved.
Huge money. The store opened back in 2018, and it came after a massive public investment. When I say massive, I mean the sources detail it received $28,997,400 in taxpayer money.
Wow. Nearly $29 million.
Right. Through bonds, loans, city ordinances, subsidies, the whole 9 yards. Nearly $29 million of public funds.
Okay, that's serious commitment. You don't spend that kind of money without believing it's addressing a critical problem.
Exactly. It just underscores how severe the city saw this food access issue and how invested they were, literally, in trying to turn things around for this community.
So the initial hopes must have been incredibly high.
Through the roof. It wasn't just about selling affordable groceries, though that was key. It was also about providing essential services, maybe creating jobs, being a real community hub, improving quality of life.
More than just a store, it was meant to be a cornerstone for revitalization.
That's a good way to put it. It was about building resilience in that neighborhood.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Kansas City situation, it's not unique at all.
No, sadly not.
So many cities across the U.S. struggle with this exact problem. Fair access to fresh food. What often happens is, traditional supermarkets, the big private chains, they look at low-income areas and decide it's just not profitable enough.
Right, the economics don't work for their model.
Yeah, they might point to things like people maybe not spending as much per shopping trip, maybe higher operating costs like security, maybe insurance is higher, just thinner profit margins compared to, say, a booming suburb.
Makes sense from a purely business perspective, I guess.
Purely business, yes. But when those private companies pull out or just never set up shop in the first place, you get these food deserts. And that leaves residents in a really tough spot.
Which is where the city felt it had to step in.
Exactly. That's when you see municipal intervention or maybe public-private partnerships becoming, not just appealing, but maybe necessary. Cities get involved because they see a public benefit that the market isn't providing.
Like basic access to healthy food.
Increasingly seen almost as a basic right.
Yeah.
And without it, communities really suffer. You see higher rates of diet-related diseases, more stress on families. It can even reinforce poverty cycles.
So that $29 million investment starts to make more sense in that context.
It does. It tells you a lot about the city's priorities back then. It suggests they did their homework, the needs assessments, and found this huge systemic gap that the private sector just wasn't filling.
A massive bet on this store being a catalyst.
A catalyst, exactly. Not just for food, but for wider economic and social improvement on the east side. It's embodying that idea that maybe the city does have a responsibility to make sure people have necessities, especially when the market fails them.
And it's a big but.
That's a very big but. The challenge, the huge challenge, is turning that vision, that big upfront investment, into something that actually works day-to-day long-term, especially in an area that might already have, complex social and economic headwinds.
And that, unfortunately, seems to be exactly where things started to go wrong for Sunfresh.
The difficult turn in the story.
Yeah, a really difficult turn. Because despite all that money, all those hopes, the day-to-day reality at Sunfresh started looking, pretty grim. And not just at the very end.
Right. The sources say it was struggling for years.
Exactly. Years. That's key. It wasn't like a sudden disaster hit. It sounds more like a slow decline, suggesting some deep, ongoing operational problems were eating away at it.
Problems that became visible to everyone.
Oh, yeah. Local news, shoppers. They started painting this picture of a store that was just deteriorating. Like, imagine going into your main grocery spot, the one meant to solve the food desert issue, and seeing mostly bare shelves and coolers.
Not just inconvenient, but a sign something's fundamentally broken.
Totally. And the sources get specific. Empty meat, produce, and deli departments, these are like the core of a fresh market, right? The healthy stuff. If those are always empty, the store's failing its main job.
Undermining the whole reason it exists.
And it wasn't just about empty shelves. It was about the quality, even the safety of what was there. There's this quote from a shopper, Michael Randolph, that really hits home. She said, about the milk.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. She said, the milk, I am scared to buy some. Even the dates, they may have a few days over. I don't want to buy that.
Wow. That's devastating for trust. If you can't trust the milk.
Right. Why would you keep shopping there? Even if it's close by. You'd start going elsewhere if you could, wouldn't you? Risking spoiled food is just not an option for most families.
Absolutely not.
And it gets worse. Another shopper, John Murphy, talked about the smell. He said, it's a rancid odor. I think something is dead or something's gone bad.
Oh, that's really bad. That points to a breakdown in basic hygiene, basic maintenance.
Exactly. Just fundamental failures in how you run a grocery store. You wouldn't expect that anywhere, let alone a place funded with $29 million of public money meant to be a community anchor.
And this wasn't a sudden surprise to the management either, right?
No, not at all. Emmett Pearson, he's the CEO of the nonprofit Community Builders of Kansas City that took over ownership in 2022. He apparently has been vocal for years about our concerns and fears regarding the increasingly insurmountable challenges at the store.
So they saw it coming. Or at least they knew things were bad for a long time.
Yeah, it sounds like a slow-motion crisis they couldn't stop.
Which really raises that important question, doesn't it? About the long-term sustainability of these kinds of models when they face these persistent day in, day out operational hurdles.
Yeah, can the mission alone keep it afloat?
It seems not.
Yeah.
I mean, the core lesson here feels like even with public money and a real community need, a grocery store is still a retail business at heart. And if you don't nail the fundamentals, stocking, quality, cleanliness, the mission, however noble, just can't carry it.
People need to trust the basics.
Exactly. When you've got bare shelves, maybe expired products, these awful odors
Yeah.
just destroys customer trust and loyalty. Doesn't matter who owns the store, public or private, people need reliable access to safe food.
And if they don't get it, they'll vote with their feet, even if it's harder for them.
They will. They'll find alternatives, even if it costs them more time or money. It's a universal reaction. And these conditions, they also shed light on the harsh economic realities, right?
Yeah. Running a grocery store isn't easy, especially in tougher neighborhoods.
Not at all. Grocery is famous for razor-thin margins. You need high volume, super efficient inventory control, good cash flow just to stay viable. Empty shelves suggest big problems there.
Like maybe they couldn't pay suppliers or manage stock properly.
Could be any of those.
Mhm.
Maybe trouble keeping good staff. These are complex logistical and financial challenges. If you're not bringing in enough steady revenue to cover costs, staff, utilities, rent, constantly buying new stock, you fall into this awful downward spiral.
Less stock means fewer shoppers.
Fewer shoppers means less money.
Less money means you can buy even less stock or fix things or hire people.
Exactly. It's a brutal feedback loop. And it seems that initial $29 million, while huge, just wasn't enough to fight off those relentless ongoing operational pressures and the basic economics of the situation.
A reminder that good intentions and even big money aren't always enough if the fundamentals aren't there.
A very powerful reminder. You just can't ignore basic business principles, even when you're chasing a vital social goal.
Okay, so the store was clearly struggling internally, operationally, big time. But then there's this other layer, something darker that seems to have been the final straw, the catalyst for just shutting the doors.
The unforeseen circumstances.
Exactly. That vague phrase on the handwritten sign they put up. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances beyond our control. It sounds generic, right?
Yeah, standard closure language almost.
But when you dig into what the CEO, Emmett Pearson Jr., said and what residents were saying, a much clearer and frankly much more disturbing picture comes out.
What did they say specifically?
Well, let me read that sign again because the end is really telling in hindsight. It said, "We are no longer at this time able to serve the residents of this important community. It has always been our dream and passion to provide quality products and services in a safe family environment. At this time, unfortunately, we are unable to do that."
Unable to provide a safe family environment. That's pretty stark.
It is, and Pearson clarified why. He apparently repeatedly said that relentless shoplifting and crime in the neighborhood have driven away customers.
Relentless shoplifting. Not just occasional theft, but constant.
Yeah, suggesting a huge drain on inventory, a financial hit, and just an ongoing battle they were losing.
That alone can cripple a low-margin business.
Absolutely. But it went way beyond just shoplifting. The fear in the community itself, it was intense.
Yeah.
Residents told the Washington Post straight up that they were scared to go to the store
Scared? Why?
because of rampant drug dealing and vagrancy both inside and outside the store.
Inside the store, too. Wow.
Yeah, think about that. People afraid to go to the place specifically created for them, funded by public money because the environment felt dangerous and chaotic.
That completely undermines the entire purpose. It's not just an inconvenience, it's a fundamental breakdown of safety and public order.
And it wasn't just vague feelings. The sources mentioned specific, really disturbing incidents caught on surveillance cameras in the shopping center.
Like what?
Okay, brace yourself. They documented a naked woman walking through the store, a person urinating, and a couple fornicating on the lawn of the library in broad daylight.
Oh my goodness. Seriously?
Seriously, caught on camera. These aren't just rumors. They're documented events showing a complete breakdown of public decorum right there.
Okay, when you have things like that happening.
Yeah. It suddenly becomes very clear why customers would stay away, why staff would feel unsafe, and why management would finally say, we are unable to provide a safe family environment.
The unforeseen circumstances sound a lot like an overwhelming wave of crime and social disorder.
Exactly.
You know, what's truly fascinating here, and maybe the saddest part of this whole story, is just how powerfully those external factors, public safety, the feeling of disorder, can just completely wreck a project like this.
Even one with so much money and good intentions behind it?
Absolutely. A grocery store, doesn't matter if it's city-run or private, It needs a basic level of safety in order to function. It just does. If customers feel scared, if they're constantly seeing drug deals or vagrancy or, well, those truly awful incidents you mentioned,
They're going to stop coming. It's human nature.
it's fundamental self-preservation and dignity. You can have the best deals in town, but if people feel unsafe just getting there or being inside, the store is finished.
And it's not just the customers, right? Think about the staff.
Exactly. How do you even work effectively? How do you stock shelves, keep things clean, help customers when you're dealing with relentless shoplifting or witnessing incredibly disturbing things daily?
Must have been terrifying for them. And impossible to attract good employees.
Makes it incredibly hard to hire and keep people. So you get staff shortages, morale plummets, and the store's operations slide even further downhill. It feeds on itself.
That downward spiral again.
It is. Crime drives away customers. Fewer customers mean less money. Less money means you can't afford security, or enough staff, or even basic upkeep, which, in turn, can actually make the area feel even more neglected and prone to disorder.
Wow. So the problems just compound each other.
It's a truly tragic loop. It shows how interconnected all these urban problems are. You try to fix one thing, like food access, but if you don't address the underlying safety and social issues at the same time,
The whole thing can just collapse.
it can be completely derailed. It really highlights that you can't just drop a solution, even a well-funded one, into a really troubled environment and expect it to magically fix everything.
Right.
The social health of the community is almost like a prerequisite for the economic health.
A very sobering thought. And the impact now on the community.
Devastating by all accounts.
Yeah, the closure of Sunfresh has left this huge, painful gap in that Kansas City neighborhood. The sources say it's now a major problem for local residents who are already struggling with food access. It's like, oh, they're right back where they started, or maybe even worse off.
Because the hope is gone now, too.
Exactly. And think about the practicalities. The geographic isolation is real. The sources say the next closest options are all at least a mile away.
A mile might not sound like much to some people.
But if you don't have a car, if you're elderly, if you're disabled, if you've got little kids, if you rely on buses that don't go directly there, a mile is a massive barrier.
A huge obstacle to getting fresh, healthy food regularly.
Yeah. It means more reliance on unhealthy corner store food, more time, more effort, more stress, probably more money spent on travel just to feed your family. A daily struggle made harder.
And the voices from the community really underscore that human cost.
They really do. Ryan Beal, he worked at Sunfresh. His quote is just heartbreaking. He said, "We got elders here, we got grandmas taking care of grandkids here, some people that come from other places because they don't want to shop at stores in their neighborhood. This is going to be a dead zone too."
Wow, a dead zone. That's heavy. It speaks to the fear that this closure will just accelerate the area's decline.
Yeah, it really does. And another customer, Jill Buford, she said, "I really hate to see really leave the area because so many people, they live around here, walking distance, where they can come to a store that's close to the community to where they can get to."
Just highlighting that basic convenience, that lifeline that's now gone.
Yeah. It's not abstract policy failure. It's real people whose lives just got significantly harder. A publicly funded resource vanished.
And if we connect this back to the bigger picture, this whole sad situation in Kansas City, it really throws fuel on that ongoing debate, doesn't it, about government getting involved in things usually left to the private sector.
Especially in these really challenging urban areas.
Exactly. And predictably, the closure is being interpreted through very different lenses. People are drawing sharply contrasting conclusions about what it all means.
Like the townhall.com piece.
Right. That's one very clear, very political interpretation. The title alone, "A city-run grocery store in Missouri closed." Want to guess the reason? Kind of sets the tone.
No subtlety there.
Not much. The author flatly states, "There's nothing much that needs to be said here. Socialism doesn't work." It frames the failure entirely as proof that government-run enterprises are doomed.
A purely ideological take.
Pretty much. And then it directly warns New York City, mentioning a specific candidate there who proposed similar ideas, saying basically, "See, don't do this." Now, just to be clear for everyone listening, we're just reporting what the source says here, not endorsing that view.
Got it. Impartial reporting of the source's argument.
Right. So that perspective sees it as a straightforward cautionary tale against government stepping into the market. They argue it's inherently inefficient, can't compete, and will fail.
Okay, so that's one take. What about the Daily Mail source?
Well, the Daily Mail's reporting, while it also notes the closure and the government funding, Focuses much more on the operational chaos and the social environment.
Less ideology, more on-the-ground reality.
Seems that way. Their headline points to rampant shoplifting and empty shelves. They really emphasize those tangible problems. The shoplifting, the bare shelves, but also the rampant drug dealing and vagrancy, both inside and outside the store.
So they're highlighting the context it was operating in.
Exactly. Instead of jumping straight to a conclusion about economic systems, this perspective zooms in on the day-to-day nightmare the store faced. It kind of implicitly suggests the failure wasn't because it was city-run per se, but because it was trying to operate in an impossible environment.
An environment that might have crushed any business there.
That's the implication.
Yeah.
That maybe any store, public or private, would struggle or fail against those specific overwhelming obstacles like crime and disorder.
Which brings us to the real nuance here, doesn't it?
It really does. Is this a failure of the model, the city-run grocery store model? Is it proof that socialism doesn't work, as Pound Hall claims? Or is it more accurately a failure to deal with the deep-seated social problems, the crime, the disorder that created an environment where no business could easily thrive?
Two very different diagnoses.
Very different. The conservative source uses it as clear evidence for their political viewpoint. The other source provides the details that support the interpretation focused on the impossible operating conditions.
And it's plausible that even a private store would have struggled massively there.
You'd have to think so, wouldn't you? If your staff feel unsafe, if you're losing huge amounts to theft constantly, if your customers are literally scared to come in, how do you survive? Profit motive or not, those are fundamental roadblocks.
So maybe the key question isn't just public versus private.
Maybe not. Maybe the deeper question is, if the social fabric, the basic safety and order in a neighborhood, is that badly frayed, can any single intervention like a grocery store succeed on its own? Or does it point to the need for a much broader, more integrated approach?
Tackling safety, social issues, and food access all at once.
Perhaps. It suggests that maybe revitalization needs to address those foundational community health issues just as much, if not more, than providing specific services. It really forces us to look past simple answers and grapple with the tangled web of problems in struggling urban areas.
Wow. Okay, so this deep dive into the Kansas City Sun Fresh Market, it's really taken us through a lot, hasn't it? From this ambitious vision, backed by almost $29 million in public money, trying to fix a real problem.
A food desert.
Right, to this grim reality of years of decline, empty shelves, even spoiled food.
Operational struggles.
And then that final devastating blow, the crime, the shoplifting, the drug dealing, the vagrancy, those truly shocking incidents, creating an environment that was just unsafe and unsustainable.
The catalyst for closure.
Yeah. And the impact now on the residents left behind, it's just heartbreaking. They're facing even tougher times getting basic food.
A real human cost.
Yeah. And finally, these clashing interpretations of why it failed. Was it the model itself, a failure of government intervention? Or was it the overwhelming social chaos that would challenge any business?
The political versus the practical explanations.
It really shows just how complex these situations are, far beyond a simple headline.
Absolutely. And it leaves us with a really important and maybe uncomfortable question that goes way beyond just Kansas City.
Which is?
Well, when you have a community with a clear, critical need, like access to healthy food and the regular market, the private sector, isn't meeting that need, what responsibility does the city have? Should it step in?
A fundamental question.
It is. But then going even deeper based on this case, what are those critical, maybe often overlooked factors that really decide if any service, public or private, succeeds or fails in these environments? We're talking about those basics: public safety, social stability, community health.
Things that maybe need to be in place before you can successfully run something like a grocery store.
That's the provocative thought, isn't it? This case really pushes us to think hard about what sustainable urban revitalization actually requires. It's probably not just about one project, one store. It's likely about addressing that whole complex ecosystem. And it warns us against grabbing easy explanations when the reality, as we've seen here, always more complicated.